Well, good morning, everyone. How are you guys this fine Friday morning? TGIF and all that? I've got another busy weekend. Oh my gosh, why don't people leave me alone on the weekends? All right, so we just saw the market open. And this is the NASDAQ, and they're a little bit subdued right now. Let's take a look here at the NASDAQ on our Falcon, see what's been going on in the overnight. A little bit of a roller coaster. So the market closed off, where did they finish yesterday? Right around here. 45.36, I think, was the close. And London opened, down they went, up they went, and now they're trying to go down, now they're trying to go up again. So nothing too terribly enticing at the moment. The market fairly range bound, if it isn't obvious enough. So we'll just give things a minute for dust to settle. Crude oil also, well, crude oil a little bit more active. Here's crude oil on the hawk. And the market opened down here, went into a green bar sell, which we know is a weaker signal. It tends to develop near the end of the trend. It still offered enough for a scalp when it went here to test the extreme, and then came back with a first micro-macro cross signal, which would have been a fairly reliable signal to take. You're going to notice that the green bar sell and the first micro-macro cross are printing in pretty much the same neighborhood. In fact, if you had set up to buy the failure of the green bar sell, you would have actually got a slightly worse fill than if you had waited for the first micro-macro cross. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. I think the market's just going to need a couple of minutes to find its way. It's like that sometimes. They don't really know what they want to do. Soybeans also terribly quiet this morning. Not a whole lot going on in the soybean market. Although it does look like, according to our eagle, we might be seeing a change in trend. And now you can see soybean is already on our alternate settings, and yet this is the eagle. Look at how close our daybreak lines are coming. And this is making me think that I might have to switch to a different market soon, because I'm not going to get a whole lot of opportunities here on my eagle day trading this. Oh, what I was going to point out though is that we're getting a little bit of a rule of three type situation developing. You see, here we've got a bearish band, a buy signal, another buy signal. The ATR has since flipped over on this one. We'll see if they come back. and give us yet a third buy signal, which will either complete the rule of three or even be a with trend signal. If you wanted to take advantage of this test of the extreme already, remember the rule of three is just an approximation, right? What's important is that we see the test of the extreme, the failure, and the market trying to head higher. Now that the ATR has flipped over on this current bar, you could use the high of that bar, or I would more likely use this high right here as a place to buy soybeans higher. It's actually not a half bad looking trade. Soybeans, one of these markets, I do tend to stretch the profit objective. You can see, given the moves or the size of the moves of late, I might have to reduce that somewhat. And it is Friday. We don't normally see monster moves in a grain market on a Friday. Not usually. Thank you, Mark. Mark's given me the lowdown on the reports. So he says Chicago PMI news at 9:45 and consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. Eastern. See, here on the NASDAQ too, we're getting a bit of a rule of three type situation. 1, 2, 3 signals against the hard edge. We have had the test of the extreme. A rule of three tends to develop better when the market has an established trend. That's not to say that you can't take this rule of three. Just be aware that it's not ideal. Once again, I would look at taking it below the low here, or now that the market is trading a little bit higher, at least below the low of this bar here with the big tail. What we're looking for is we're looking for the market to get outside of this trading range. And at the moment, there's just not a whole lot of bias to the market. The market is very neutral all the way around. See, now we're coming back with a red bar buy signal. Yikes. We'll just let that simmer for a moment. Yeah, see, we're not even getting scalp signals here on the hawk. Here was a macro pullback, which I believe failed to reach its profit objective. Yeah, it didn't look like it traded far enough there. Let's take a look. Now, this is a high probability signal, right? Oh, maybe it did. Maybe it got close. Nope, turned way too early. So right now you'd be thinking, okay, macro pullback failed. Here's a first micro macro cross. Let's give that a go because we know that's a high probability signal. And oh, it just kissed the profit objective before turning around. So at least that trade would have gotten to break even. Oh, actually, this one would have got to break even too. The point is we're not seeing follow through either way. We're not seeing follow through. We've had two high probability signals, no follow through either way. We have a range which is like so. You could, or a larger range which is like so. You could bracket this range if you were so inclined. Oh, thanks, Jim. Jim says the advance declined a little bit in favor of the bears today. Positive 900 and a negative 1,000. So we're about a negative 600 overall, 600 and change. See, so we're going to just continue generating some flip-flop signals here. I'm going to clear this because we can always come back to that. Trade forecaster says that the dust might be settling soon. Let's see, here we are in trend mode, sorry, scalp mode, and in about 5 minutes time we're going to be moving into trend mode. Wow, that would be very welcome. Okay, we're seeing the same thing across the board, but it's most pronounced on the eagle. I suppose there's a couple of ways you could look at this. You could look at it as a pennant type formation. The market is coiling up and is likely to break one way or the other. Right now, it's looking like the sell side might be a little bit more promising, and you can see I'm not getting overly aggressive here. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that because we did just have a red bar buy here, didn't we? The sellers do have control of the market at the moment because they put in the last swing. It is a lower swing. And now we would be looking for the support area to fail and for the buyers to leave. But a ton of support down at these levels. I think this was pretty close to yesterday's lows if I remember right. If memory serves, we were sitting around this 45.25 area for the longest time. You could be right, Mark. Mark, with his news reports this morning, it could be that the market is holding out for a shove one way or the other. See, so here come the buyers again. It's only one bar. I'd like to see 2 bars to really say the buyers are in control. right, so you see how the buyers stepped in right here. So far, they couldn't muster a rally. The sellers stepped in right here. Now the shoe is on the other foot. The sellers need to produce another bar, which they did. We now clearly have a rule of three. With a test at the extreme. I could have put my entry in a little bit earlier, but you know what? It's here. I'll just leave it alone. If this market is going to fall through the support, or through yesterday's support, it'll have a little bit of room to move, I think. So once again, the buyers digging in, trying to support their prices at 45.25. Everybody's running on vapors here. Okay, well, they're digging in hard. Ronald is asking, when you have time, would you explain how you set your trader inputs so I can match it? Okay, are you talking about the presets that I have on Trade Manager, Ron? Okay, that's what he's getting at. Well, it looks like they're going to take a bounce here, so are we missing anything else? No, not really. We've got a first micro-macro cross brewing right here. Once again, notice the hawk, all the yellow clusters, all the yellow bars. Not a very enticing trade. Even though it is a first micro-macro cross, this is a situation you need to realize your range bound. Is the first micro-macro cross a high probability signal? Yes, definitely, absolutely, 100%. Does that mean it never fails? Nope. So when you take the signal, you have to be aware that where you're trading, and now of course we're into yellow bars, so I don't even need to worry about it. All right, so Ron is asking, how do you set up your Trade Manager presets? Okay, what you need to do is you need to go to your Strategies window, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it, and we're going to start from scratch. So double click on Trade Manager, and when it first loads, you're going to notice that all your settings are in black, so you can actually make changes to them. So I don't change anything really at the top. The first change I make here is I enable my auto break even. So it's currently disabled. I'm going to turn that on. Because this is the hawk and I run a tighter profit target than the 15 tick break-even trigger, I'm going to change that to 8 ticks. And there's nothing fancy about that. It's just what I do. You can make it 7, you can make it 9, you can make it whatever you want. I'm actually going to change this for the bar high low. I just noticed that I can preset the default. Okay, so I changed that from 5 to 2. And then the only other thing that I changed is down here where how it looks. Order text parameters. That's an odd title, but this has to do with how it displays. I'm going to change the font to 14. I do that more for your benefit, so it's easier to see on your screen, but if your eyesight is failing, that's where you can change the font size. I also changed the order entry line position from left to right. As no doubt you've noticed, if you put it on left, you're going to sometimes print your values right in your prices. Account protection parameters. I'm going to change the risk volatility percent to 2%. And here where it says click or tick target types, click means I'm going to set the targets manually. Tick means I'm going to set the targets automatically. So now it's going to be, how do I set up my targets? Well, target 1, I'm going to be all in, all out. On this, I'm going to have 100% and target 1 will be at 10 ticks. Then when you have everything to your liking, you're going to save it. So here on your template manager, go to save and give it a name. So this is the hawk. We'll call it hawk. And now that's going to be in my template assortment. So if when I go to load it, I just go to hawk and it will automatically load on a new chart. I need to enter my account as well. And when everything is to my liking, I click apply and voila, there it is. Ron, when you say you don't have that, is that the trade manager? Do you have the Trailblazer? The Trailblazer is slightly different. The Trailblazer is the sort of like the one-click trade manager. It does not have the risk parameters, but it functions in a similar way. So we're going to go to Trailblazer, and just to save time, I'm going to turn it off. And now you can make changes. Invalid trail stop ticks. This is if you are against your stop strategy. How many ticks should Trailblazer place your stop loss target or your stop loss? I think in most cases it says 10. I find 10 a little bit too tight to start. I like to go something a little bit more liberal because I can always tighten the stop parameter, right? I don't want to get into a trade and then immediately get stopped out because my stop is a little bit too cozy. So I've changed mine to 25 ticks. Like I say, I can always tighten it. Auto break-even parameters, you're going to change that to true. The break-even trigger is fine. Break-even offset is fine. I'm going to change here the bar high low plot from 5 to 2. And then once again down here, the order text parameters, you see it's pretty much the same as Trade Manager. So we're going to change that from 10 to 14. Entry line text position. So we're going to change that from left to right. I don't worry about reversal quantities. And then when you go to here, your template manager, you want to save that. So give it a name. Press enter and it saves. Choose your account. And if you've just loaded it fresh, all you need to do is apply. If you've made changes like I have, you need to turn it back on. So you're going to go here to your enabled. Oh, wait a minute. I think there was one more change I wanted to make. No, it doesn't give me that option. Okay, so when you're ready, you go here to your enabled. And like I say, if you're just loading it fresh, you don't need to do this. Otherwise, you need to turn it back on, click apply, and OK. Now, the only thing Trade Manager does not allow you to preset are your quantities and your targets. So the first order of business is to set your quantity and your targets. So I'm going to take two contracts. Let's see, I've set a quantity one contract, quantity two, one contract. So my sum is going to be two contracts. Target one will have a target of 20 ticks. Target two will be a runner. It has a 0 target. So, like I say, the nice thing with Trailblazer is that it's a one-click system. Now, there's no signal going on here, folks. I'm just going to demonstrate something for Ron. So let's say, let's say we're going to buy it because our stops are down here, right? They're against. If I'm going to sell this, our stops should be up here. But remember, we preset our stop at 20 ticks or 25 ticks. So watch what happens if I sell it. See, I automatically get my stop 25 ticks away. Trade Manager also automatically gives me my break-even target at 15 ticks, and notice I'm short two contracts. I have a buy limit order, a profit-taking order, for one contract, 20 ticks away. All right, so that's how you set everything up. And of course, you can change the parameters to your liking. There's nothing magical or mystical about my parameters. Well, things better shake up here pretty quick. Soybeans plodding along a little. Here's our soybean trade, making a little progress, nothing to get too terribly excited about, but at least they are advancing. Oh, way to go, Jimmy. James says he just scalped the YM. One second here, I'll get a YM chart up for you. He went long at 46, out at 67. Nice move. Nice little 20 tick scalp. So he went long at 46. That's down here. He's out at 67. That's right here. So it looks like Jim's playing the channel a little bit, or maybe the trend line. Although if I throw a trend line there, it's like that. Oh, I see what he did. Jim was anticipating the top of the hour there, and he traded off of the low of the morning. He bought the low of the morning and picked up a little bit of a bounce there. So the market is heading back into the hard edge. Still on hold for the most part. Oh, fantastic. Well, Michelle, I think I'm going to have to start watching soybean oil. Michelle just knocked it out of the park. She says, Eric, I just put away $1,337 on soybean oil on a live trade. Way to go, Michelle. A lot of exclamation points there, and I don't blame you. Well done. That's fantastic. $1,300. That's a wonderful way to start the weekend. Thanks, Jim. Jim says we got a yellow bar long short here on the NQ. So it's the buy signal, and now they've come around with a failure. So let's see if I can still sneak an order in on the hash mark. There we go. Actually, if you wanted, and we're just messing around here a little bit this morning, folks, we could set it up like this. That might be better. You know that when we're sideways like this, if you haven't heard me say this before, this is the plan du jour. If we're in a sideways market, is to let the market get outside of that range, retest, and then look for a buying opportunity, and vice versa. If it breaks the lows, let it retest, which it will, and then get that selling opportunity. See, the sellers had it in hand, and then the buyers broke the highs here through the top of the trend line. Now, I know you're looking at that and saying, well, really, Eric? Really? That's a trend line break? It's only a couple of ticks. Yeah, but you would be surprised. The sellers should have been able to hold. You see, they were trying to hold here. The buyers poked through. It's all, it's just a jumbled mess this morning, trying to make sense out of this. That's why I say the best course of action is just to allow it to get out and then break. I guess we can cancel that, can't we? Everybody else is there wringing their hands trying to figure out which way the market is going. Okay, a little more commitment, maybe. We still got a long ways to go here before we get anything tradable. Here we are flirting with the lows. Thanks, Jim. Jim says the DAX just punched through to a new low. And they've got their issues there in Europe. Oh my gosh. Greece, of course, is back in the news again. That is going to be one mess to try to untangle. I suppose in a way this is like a declining wedge. Look at that support though. Oh my gosh, they are really, really digging in at 45.25. Okay, well that's pretty good. They didn't slip us. Now we'll see how badly they really want to defend it. This is the first time all morning that 45.25 has been broken. This is the big test now, because if the buyers are able to recover it, wherever the sellers knock them down again, that's where I'm going to start to get very aggressive with my stops. It's a big deal. Okay, there we go. I was going to say it's a big deal. We need to see somebody break 45.22.5, which they just did. Crude oil on a tear. I was busy watching the NQ here, and crude oil gave us a late filter entry signal right here, and I'm sorry I missed that. And they also came back with a trend line touch. So crude oil coming out of nowhere to put in a big rally. Our trade is at break even. Hooray! I can take it easy now. Oh yes, Mark. Sorry, Mark. I hope that was a cut and paste. Mark wrote me a rather long question here. Mark asks, a logistics question. I'm just curious, when you have your different markets open, do you have your audible alerts on for all your markets? And if so, doesn't that get confusing on where the signal is coming from? I'm wondering which market alerts you keep active and which to turn off if you are watching multiple markets at a time. In other words, do you focus on your audible alerts or just one market? And if so, how do you know when a trade is setting up in another market? All right. They have changed on the trade manager, or pardon me, on the DTS system, the audible alerts. So let's go here to our indicator window and find our trading tool, our Hawk Scalper. Now, I have sound enabled. So I have my audio alert turned on. They have, since the beginning of DTS, they've added a lot more audio files. So you can actually, choose, well, you've got lots to choose from. You can give it a sound, but I don't like these where it says long setup, scalp, or scalp, short setup. I agree with you, Mark. I find that very confusing. I have just gone to the scalp wave file for my buy and my buy warning. And likewise, I've done the same thing for my swing trader, where I've just changed the audio file to say swing instead of, I think there's a swing, see, swing long setup, swing long, swing short setup, swing short. For me, I agree. I find that very confusing, more confusing than just having it say swing. And likewise, I've done the same thing for the Eagle as well as the Raptor. Having it set up that way, I don't find it all that distracting. Okay, so I just heard scalp. I have 3 hawk charts to monitor, right? So I look at my NQ chart. Yeah, okay, there's a scalp setup. I look at my soybean chart. Yes, there's a scalp setup. And then I look at my crude oil chart, and there's a scalp setup. So this scalp audio alert is actually a bad example because all 3 of my charts are giving me a scalp setup. Okay, so I just heard swing. This might be a better scenario. Okay, so here's my NQ. Here is my warning dot. I'm looking at my soybean chart, my Falcon. No swing set up there. And I just heard another swing alert, and that would be for my crude oil chart. And here's my crude oil swing alert. All right. So, and now I just heard trend. So when I hear the alert, I really only need to check 3 charts. Okay, so I'm too late on that one. So checking 3 charts once I hear the alert is not that big a deal for me. I do know some people who, and I'm not saying this to sound condescending, but some people who were trying to watch 3 or 4 charts, and they would hear scalp and they couldn't figure out which of their 3 or 4 charts was producing the scalp. So they had a wave file made that said scalp NQ, scalp crude, scalp gold, or whatever market they were watching. And there's lots of websites that will produce audio wave files for you. Most of them will do it for free. If you can't find them with a Google search, send me an email or send Ben an email and we'll point you in the right direction. And like I say, I'm not saying that in a condescending fashion. If you're having trouble, if you hear your scalp alert and you're looking at your 3 hawk charts and you can't figure out which one produced the warning dot, then maybe you want to consider it to have it say scalp NQ. And then I just go take a look here at my NQ chart. After a while, the audio alerts are very handy, don't get me wrong, but after a little while, the audio alerts are going to fade into the background. You'll still be aware of them, but it's kind of like watching a television commercial, right? You're watching it, but you're not really watching it. So if I hear the audio alert, I will, glance at the other chart, but I'm looking at my charts anyways. Now, if I'm answering somebody's email or thumbing through a magazine or something, then I pay more attention to the audio alerts. Oh yes, you see, Michelle says, Eric, I had that problem. I went to create a crude hawk, crude falcon, crude eagle. Similarly, I created a DAX eagle, DAX falcon, DAX hawk, just to get to the right screen. One thing I don't like about the software that we use for the room, it makes it impossible for me to copy anything out of the chat windows. Several of you are sending me links to audio files that you've done, and I can't copy them. And I'm not going to retype them. Sorry, but thank you for sharing them. If you shoot me an email, I can share them. Yeah, there you go. I can do a screenshot. That's a good idea. Yeah, okay. Salish says he's going to email it to me. Michelle said that she has some text files also. If anybody would like her text files, she said I can hand out her email address and you guys can email her. Michelle used from text to speech.com. Yeah, there's a few websites that do that type of thing. All right, so the NQ coming up here now for a retest. We'll see if the sellers can knock them down again. We're getting a macro pullback signal. This was our first micro-macro cross, which I was a little bit late on, but it had very good follow through. Oh, sounds like they just hit my break-even stop on the eagle, which was unfortunate. I could have perhaps moved to a more aggressive stop strategy. No, wouldn't have made a difference. So we might be back to flounder mode. Yeah, like Joe says, it's like pulling teeth with this market. Yes, it is. Well, it's Friday. It's a Friday in spring, end of May. Well done, Joe. Joe says, I got my ticks. I'm done for the week. Way to go. We still have a macro pullback signal here on the NQ. I do expect some sort of reaction because, look, the sellers pushed it all the way down here. They're not going to let it go. But the further we drift higher here, the weaker the sellers become until they get way back up here. Then the sellers will feel safe selling. But this is a macro pullback. It's a situation I'm going to try to cover the trade very, very deep. That's only good for a onesie. Wow, why don't we do it like this? And not the most enticing trade, but we're in the trading room. I might as well show you something. I would very much like to see this drift into yellow bars, because I think that's where we're at right now. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw a onesie on here with a runner. I feel better about that. It's just if they start to slide, even with a stop at 45.31, that might prove to be a little bit cozy. And yeah, Joe says we're almost into the hard edge on our trading band, which is true. We would anticipate some sort of reaction. Look at where the hard edge is printing, though. It's 45.28, which is giving me pause. And even if we got back up to this trend line, that would put us in the 45.30 area, which is why I'm trying to risk it way, way up there. Trying to give myself as much staying power as possible. We are into the hard edge here on the Raptor. This may well develop into a double pullback. It's going to be a long morning. We'll stick it out for a little while still. It's just an hour into trading. Hey, 55 minutes. Well, we'll tough it out for another half hour, see if anything comes of it. Then we'll close up shop probably by 8, call it a week. I can get going on some of my to-dos, maybe, just maybe carve out a little free time for myself this weekend. Oh, very interesting little observation here from Jim. Jim's also watching the options. He says there's a lot of YM, a lot of Dow Jones put orders. So the YM is going to make a run to kill the puts, as he put it. That could be. All right, so our macro pullback signal just tripped. Oh, we actually got favorable slippage. How do you like that? That shows you how thin the market is. Get down there. Come on, get down there. Oh, you stinkers. You're not even going to take my break even? Come on. The break even is set at 80% of my profit objective. And of course, I've changed it to a runner type scenario for this trade. I don't think we're going to see a monster decline here today, but you know, I think almost everybody has been waiting for the stock index or stock indices to decline in some fashion or another. Okay, so I'm going to enable the parabolics because they're a little bit more aggressive, and well, we'll see what we get. We're currently at break even. So the testing, the breakout, the retesting. Now we've sold and we're looking for what can we get out of this. So I guess actually as far as trade situations go today, this one was pretty good. This macro pullback, or this first micro macro cross, that one I wanted to be all over that one. This macro pullback may develop into a test of the extreme as we get closer to these 45.17 lows, and might actually see the market reverse and try to head higher again. What have we got in profit? Oh, almost $100. So it's nothing to sneeze at. Of course, this is the problem trying to manage a single contract also. We'll hang with them for a little while, see if they can't scare some buyers. Come Come on, get down there. All right, so major support at 17. Oh, baby, just knocked them over. Okay, they're trying to fight it back a little bit. Usually when you see that little bit of a hop, when you encounter these areas here, it's all these stop loss orders getting tripped. They're biting though. They're coming back hard. I didn't expect that. I expected more of a domino effect where they would just, fall over, just boom, 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 a little bit lower. Crude oil still on a tear. What am I doing wasting my time with the NQ? Oh well. They're holding the line. 45.15, very close to 45.17. I know it's 2 points away, but as far as the market is concerned, the buyers they're pushing. They're pushing hard. Now we'll see if the sellers push back. Joe asked, what are those blue dots? These blue dots here, Joe, I just put those in to demonstrate where the buyers had their exit orders. And because there wasn't a fast follow through like there was here, that's telling me the buyers are really digging in hard. Sellers are trying to push them back, but we need somebody to trade 45.15. Otherwise, the buyers are going to stop us out here. So it looks like we have a little 5-point channel between 45.15, 45.20. Actually, if I were looking to add a position, 45.15 would probably be a good spot to add another trade, another contract, providing we don't get stopped out first. It would be fun to see this one play out like this, because it would be a great one to demonstrate adding to your position. Come on, get down there. Give it up. Give it up, NQ. You're heading lower. Get down there. Oh, no. Oh, they're just flirting with my stop. Oh, they did. They took it out. Oh, well. This is a good try. What I was hoping was that they would fail, head lower, and I could show you why 45.15 would be a good spot to enter another trade or add to your position. It's because we really know that, after breaking the lows here, the buyers forced the market back up. The sellers confirmed that they had control of the market. They pushed it down, but then all of a sudden the buyers showed up again. So if the sellers force them down from 45.20, entering 45.15 would be ideal. So we'll see now whether or not what kind of follow through we get on that, or whether they're going to continue to dig in. Well, Jim is just shooting me some numbers here on the options for the Dow Jones. They are a little bit lopsided. 111,000. Oh, sorry, 111 calls, 182 puts. So that's a little bit lopsided. And then it went to 38 calls and 181 puts. So a lot of people buying put options, buying put options, expecting the Dow Jones to head lower. There they go. Yeah, it's too bad we couldn't hold on there. So let's see. I think we probably had a comparable signal here in the Falcon. Actually, the Falcon signal not quite as clear as what we saw on the Hawk because of the trend line going out of sync here. So this would have been an early trend change signal. This is the proper trend change signal now. Remember, the early trend change signal occurs just as the trend line changes color, but the key component is this test of the extreme, right? That's why we would entertain an early trend change signal. The Eagle, I believe, gave us a very nice signal, and it most certainly did. So it looks like I may have to extend my break-even parameter somewhat on my Eagle, because this trade, which we took, I believe, right around here somewhere, engaged the break-even stop, took us out of break-even. Sorry, I was watching the Hawk when this one printed, but we did have another opportunity to get in here, but it would have been nice to have been in the first one. Oh well, that's trading. Okay, crude oil slowing a little. Soybeans still nursing our soybean trade. Buyers are trying to dig in again. So just waiting for the next opportunity. There's going to be a little bit of profit taking going on here pretty quick, especially given the way the market has been trading this morning. So we had a couple nice bounces off the primary support area. Market finally folds over. Now we're back down here on secondary support. I would expect a little bit of profit taking. I would expect prices to firm up a little bit here. Like I said, I would not expect the market to fall off the map today. Oh, so much for prices firming up. crude oil still meandering sideways. I'm just flipping through a few charts here, see if there's anything interesting going on somewhere else. Might be time to start watching wheat instead of soybeans. Wheat is actually showing us a little bit more activity. A little bit of a jumbled mess here today, but actually yesterday too. The hawk looked better. Although this was a late filter entry signal here. A nice trend change signal, so even though it looks a little messy, it wasn't too bad. And here is wheat on the eagle. Very nice decline there right out of the open. First trend change signal, and down she goes. The ticks, Jim says the ticks have just hit a negative 1,000, so that should firm things up. Usually if the ticks get that lopsided, you start to see the buyers or sellers come in. Wow. Crazy day in the British pound. It's like a bucking bronco. North American Open right around here, a green bar sell, which failed, and which we would anticipate to fail because we got two green bar sells here in a row. First micro macro cross, up she goes. Macro pullback, up she goes. Red bar buy, up she goes, and now the failure of the red bar buy. No shortage of things to trade on your British pound hawk. Well, I suspect that this recent move lower is probably going to turn out to be the move of the day. It looks like we might be seeing some support come in around 4,500, which, is reasonable. There could be some profit taking going on here. I don't know how you feel about a counter trend trade, but for the next hour, that seems like it may be the best course of action. Oh, wow. They even broke 4,500. That's significant. All right, here comes the profit taking. The reaction to the sell at 4,500 was temporary. It looks like they slipped it to, what, about 44.97? Maybe to fake out a few sellers. You see this little spike down here? Now, I don't normally do counter trend type signals, but here on the Raptor, let's see if we're going to get a soft edge buy. Now, that's a signal that occurs sometimes when the market is trying to reverse. You encounter the soft edge and you end up printing a buy signal. Now, this one developed a little bit late. And like I said, this is a counter trend type signal, not something that I tend to get too excited about. Okay, I just heard a swing alert. Oh, we are getting... All right, here's our macro pullback signal. Now you might be wondering, why am I not selling the macro pullback signal? Well, I could. The problem with this macro pullback signal is, where do I cover it? Getting in is the easy part. Where am I going to cover this trade? Because it may try to pull back on me a little bit deeper. All right, let's get here to the Raptor. Let's see if we're going to get that buy signal. So we've got a Falcon signal here, which is failing. You see, we got the warning dots. It never printed. This might work into an early trend change signal. Again, if you wanted to be more aggressive on this trade, not saying that you have to be. And these are not the best trade parameters. Well, I do expect a little bit of a pop up here, a little bit of profit taking, nothing too huge. And counter trend trades are always, always, always riskier because, well, the market has shown which way it's paying off. And what I should be doing here is reducing the risk amount. So there we printed the signal. It's an early trend change signal. Remember, the early trend change signal comes with that test of the extreme. And did we print a Raptor signal yet? No, not yet. So we'll clear that. Again, into a macro pullback. And we're about to see the danger of taking a counter trend position. Remember, because this is an early trend change signal, I'm holding my stops down below these lows because we haven't confirmed yet that the buyers are in control of the market. We're kind of jumping on board with the buyers, trying to get the market to go higher. And this is very much a hit and run type trade. Just get in, get your money, get out. Okay, we're getting a little bit of support here from our support line at 45.02. A run to 45.12, 13 does not seem unreasonable. Unless, of course, the market just starts going sideways. All right, and for those of you who are looking for text-to-speech files, this is courtesy of Salish. Sent that along. You see what we're doing here. Oops. This is also obviously counter trend because it's starting to shape up a little bit like a bear flag, right? So the market will make another poke lower here. Whether it will be enough to reverse or resume the trend is hard to say, but that's the reason I'm holding my stop back here. If it manages to creep up here to the break even and then reverse, so be it. But we'll hold on as long as we can. Come on, get up there. Come on. Here we go. Oh my gosh, you guys, get up there. The excitement is almost more than I can stand. Well, it is typical Friday. All right, you guys, I think we are going to button up the room here. If you are choosing to trade this afternoon, I could see a little bit of a retracement here, maybe to around as high as 45.20. I wouldn't get too terribly excited though. I think the market has made the move of the day. I don't think we're going to see it move too much higher or lower. Pardon me. Although, as I said, a little bit of profit-taking retracement does not seem to be out of the realm of possibility for this market. Crude oil has still been plodding along, doing what crude oil does. Soybeans, well, they've started going sideways, so I think I'm just going to punch out of there with some profit, call it a day. All right, you guys, have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday morning. We'll talk to you then. Talk to you next month. Bye for now.